Venezuela hosts this Friday the second day of the Congress of the Historical Bolivarian Bloc, an exercise in participatory democracy led by the government of Nicolás Maduro. The G20 Social Summit opens in Rio de Janeiro, marking an unprecedented initiative by the Brazilian government ahead of the Leaders' Summit. And the new Dana in Spain and Tropical Storm Sara in the Caribbean have left citizens struggling to cope with severe weather conditions in the form of heavy rain, floods, and landslides. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Now we begin with the news. For 3 days, representatives of the 5 historical generations and the 7 social forces in Venezuela meet in Caracas. Our correspondent Gladys Quesada brings us all the details. Let's see.
6,000 delegates from all over the country gather for 3 days in Caracas, representing the 5 generations and 7 social forces that form the Historic Bloc. They arrive as spokespersons for their organizations after more than 100,000 assemblies, with the participation of nearly 3,600,000 Venezuelans.
We come to comply with the legacy of our commander Chavez, to comply with the true transformation of the Bolivarian Revolution and of the homeland, to achieve that the popular power is empowered even more, and to build the communal state, attention to all the services, to make the transformations that transverse the integral development of the nation.
It is a process of true democracy. What is sought in this process is a great reflection and awareness of what has been the historical role of the Bolivarian Revolution since the arrival of Chavez. With this process, we seek the battle for peace, the fight against fascism, to stop this fascism, and every day to achieve more participation of the sovereign people in all the conquests of the independent people.
In this first day of meeting, it was the moment to give historical context and thanks to the Congress, to evaluate work methodologies and the reasons behind the debates.
These assemblies, more than 100,000 assemblies, have allowed us to have the tools to set the course for the Venezuela of the future. With our 5 generations, with our 7 forces, consolidated as in one fist, as a single force, to defend Venezuela, and President Maduro has asked us to have 3 concrete products. This you will see later in depth with the organizer of this Congress, a complete agenda of action of the 7 transformations.
There are 7 working tables, and each one corresponds to the transformations proposed by President Maduro. Some are dedicated to social welfare, others to ecology and defense of the environment, geopolitics, citizen security, infrastructure, and even economy.
We are holding assemblies to look for all the proposals in all areas: education, health. What do we want with this? To strengthen ourselves for a better future. How do we see Venezuela in 30 years? Much stronger, much more powerful.
Once the debate sessions are concluded, the suggestions and ideas that emerge from this Congress will be delivered to President Maduro and his government in order to implement them as part of his social and economic policy, so as to govern from the people and with the people. Gladys Quesada, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
And we now move on to other topics. In the Dominican Republic, the government is deporting 10,000 Haitians per week, which is creating a major problem for Haitians and Dominicans. Our correspondent Daisy Toussaint with the details.
Massive deportations of Haitians in the Dominican Republic are having a significant impact on key sectors such as livestock, agriculture, and commerce, where Haitian workers play a key role.
What has been most affected is the productive sector, especially the cattle ranchers in the border zone, whose main source of workers are Haitian nationals working on the farms.
In Dajabon, on the northern border of the Dominican Republic, Haitians and Dominicans live side by side. But the deportations have also affected families because many Dominican Haitian couples with children run the risk of being left alone when one of the parents is deported.
The way repatriations have been carried out has not been perhaps the most praiseworthy thing. I believe that first a survey should have been made by sector, by community, of the type of family there is, the type of person, what they do, and make a data bank to know how to act, and I believe that this is what has failed the most here. Because here they deport everyone who is Haitian, and not only Haitians, but black people. They grab them and put them on the trucks for deportation.
But beyond the family separation, there is the impact on livestock. Elide is a cattle rancher who has a farm of supermes, a type of cane that serves as a feed supplement for the cows to produce milk. The Haitians plant it, maintain it, cut it, and move it to the feeding trough to grind it and feed it to the cattle. He fears that the deportations will cause a collapse in the agricultural sector.
If the measures being taken by the Dominican authorities are maintained, as radical as the fact that everyone has to leave, this sector will collapse. Here there are cattle ranchers who have 80 cows that have to be milked. There are others who have 100, and they all depend on Haitian labor. We visited Francisco, a farmer in the community of Los Arroyos who is feeling firsthand the impact of deportations on agriculture.
The other impact is on agriculture, and already here in our village it is feeling. That is, we do not have workers for the cleaning of the fruits.
Yuca, chinola, auyama.
I don't have workers right now, because sometimes those hired say they are coming, and they don't come because the authorities take them away, and that creates serious difficulties for us to produce.
Francisco points out that the measure established by the Dominican government did not take into account the opinion of the sectors that are being affected today.
The government did not think of a plan. They thought of an element within a migration plan, and the deportation element is one. But they should have taken into account, for example, the producers. They should have analyzed and seen how we could solve these difficulties. Because the Haitians are the ones who produce, and my farm cannot produce without Haitians. Maybe I will have to sell and close down everything.
The Dominican Republic and Haiti share a 376-kilometer border, of which 164 kilometers of border fence have been built, the rest being controlled by the military. However, thousands of Haitians cross the border without a document. How does this happen? The answer comes from Nancy Betances, a community leader who works with the Network for the Protection of Children and Adolescents in the border province of Dajabon.
The passport for the Haitians is the money they can have and that they can pay. There are many Haitians who are dedicated to transporting people illegally within the Dominican Republic, but many times the Haitians they transport die, and there are no statistics on the Haitians who are abandoned by these smugglers in combination with the Dominicans themselves.
In response to the immigrants' need for survival, criminal groups dedicated to the transport of undocumented Haitians have emerged.
These criminal groups are dedicated to transporting Haitians into the country.
punto en la frontera porque yo hice la ruta desde
They pick them up at a point on the border, and from there they guide them through the checkpoints and drop something to allow them to pass.
Es decir, que ya están agrupados en asociaciones. ¿Qué es lo que ellos hacen?
And then the guards let them pass as if they had not seen them. They even have associations of their own criminal groups.
Trade between the two countries generates millions of dollars annually for the Dominican Republic, and deportations are also felt by traders on both sides of the border.
I think that removing all the Haitians is not in the best interest of any of us as a country. Because a lot of labor in the Dominican Republic depends on Haitians. It is a reality. Many companies, many farms that are working in the production of rice, in the production of bananas and many other products depend on Haitian labor. There is a lot of forced labor that Dominicans do not really want to do.
Hay mucho trabajo forzado que los dominicanos en verdad no quieren hacer.
Massive deportations of Haitians on the border between the Dominican Republic and Haiti have transformed the regional dynamics. Irregular migration and corruption aggravate the situation, revealing humanitarian and economic challenges for both countries.
Desde la frontera norte en República Dominicana para TeleSUR de Institucen.
And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The G20 Social Summit opens in Rio de Janeiro, marking an unprecedented initiative by the Brazilian government ahead of the Leaders Summit. This event aims to bring civil society into the discussions among the leaders of the world's major economies. The encounter will run until Saturday, with over 270 activities organized by social movements, universities, and international organizations on social struggles such as the rights of the LGBTQ+ population, wage equality, fighting against racism, and a popular anti-imperialist court. On Friday, plenary sessions are scheduled to discuss the three axes proposed by Brazil to the G20 summit, that is, combating hunger, poverty and inequalities, sustainability and climate change, and global governance reform. And Argentina became the only country in the world to vote at the United Nations against a resolution in favor of raising efforts to eradicate violence against women and girls in digital environments. On the eve of the International Day for Eliminating Violence Against Women, 170 countries supported the resolution voted in New York, while 17 abstained and only one, Argentina, voted against it. The body concerned over the increasing use of social media and the internet to undermine the rights of women and girls. The document, promoted by the Netherlands and France, points to the attacks on sexual and reproductive health. 3 days earlier, President Javier Milei's representative further voted against a resolution in favor of indigenous people. We move on now to other topics. At least 8 people were killed on Thursday in an Israeli attack on the Al-Shab neighborhood in Baalbek in eastern Lebanon. The Lebanese Public Health Emergency Operations Center, affiliated to the Ministry of Public Health, confirmed 8 martyrs and 12 wounded in the Israeli incursion in the Baalbek neighborhood in Al-Shab. The human remains are being removed from the site for identification, while Israeli forces have so far not commented on the attack. In more than a year of conflict, more than 3,390 people have been killed and 14,417 have been injured in Lebanon, including 220 children and 658 women, according to the Lebanese government. And the Army of Israel published updated data on the number of deaths among its forces and the rankings since the beginning of the ongoing war. The published figures may not be the total due to the military censorship policy, but at least the army admitted that 793 Israeli soldiers have lost their lives in the clashes against the resistance in the framework of the war against Palestine and Lebanon. The figures revealed include 192 officers killed, including 67 platoon commanders, 63 company commanders, and 20 company deputies, 7 battalion deputy commanders, 5 battalion commanders, and 4 brigade commanders. In detail of the total recognized casualties, 48% were in compulsory military service, 18% were in permanent service, and 34% were mobilized from the reserve. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. On Thursday, the United Nations General Assembly pursued a resolution by absolute majority recognizing the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and being an independent state. The delegations of the DPRK, Egypt, and Nicaragua presented the draft in the third committee, obtained 170 votes in favor, 6 against, and 9 abstentions. The countries opposing the resolution were the United States, Israel, Argentina, Paraguay, Micronesia, and Nauru. The motion underscored Palestinians' right to self-determination, independence, and liberation from Israel occupation, rejecting the latter alleged security measures on Palestine. The document further described Palestinians' rights as inalienable, conditional, and unconditional, and non-negotiable. And we now move on to other topics. In Honduras, experts reported that Tropical Storm Sara landed on Thursday evening, warning that it poses significant domestic damages due to its low speed. Meteorologists further added that torrential rains will dump from 100 to 200 millimeters. The major departments at risk of Sara are Atlántida, Colón, Bay Islands, and Gracias a Dios. Thus, they are on red alert since early hours as a precaution. Local experts informed the storm won't turn into a hurricane, and furthermore, the United States National Hurricane Center alerted that Honduras will be facing downpours for 2 weeks. In response to it, the government has deployed security and defense personnel, as well as resources across the nation. And hours later, the National Electric Power Company of Honduras informed that it was taking the necessary preventive measures to face the effect of this tropical storm. So far, around 747 crews were mobilized throughout the country to attend incidents related to the electric power supply. One of the measures taken by the company is to suspend service interruptions due to lack of payment in the department under red alert in order to allow citizens to be informed about the progress of the storm. The state-owned company has urged the population to report any incident related to the electric supply through its numbers and other channels provided for such purposes. And meanwhile, in Nicaragua, the government activated prevention plans for the effect of Tropical Storm Sara in the country's at-risk localities. According to authorities, the greatest effects of the meteorological phenomenon are expected to be felt over the next 2 or 3 days. Civil defense teams will be deployed in the areas with the greatest risk and floodings and landslides due to winds such as the coast. In this sense, the authorities insisted on calling the attention of the Nicaraguan population not to travel in flooded avenues, not to cross rivers, and for fishermen to stay in safe zones. Also in the Philippines, Typhoon Usagi made landfall in the towns of Bagao and Cagayan on Thursday with winds of 175 kilometers per hour. Usagi slammed into the north of the Philippines as authorities rushed to evacuate thousands from the flood-prone areas. Bagao police said that there were no immediate reports of casualties or major damage. The brutal wave of weather has already killed 159 people and prompted the United Nations to appeal for $32.9 million in aid for the worst-hit regions. A recent study showed that storms in the Asia-Pacific region are becoming more frequent, intensifying faster and lasting longer over land due to climate change. In Mexico, the 4th edition of Original, an event dedicated to promoting the textile art of the country's indigenous people, has begun. This initiative seeks to defend the collective rights of creative communities and combat the misuse of their iconography and techniques. President Sheinbaum highlighted the importance of protecting indigenous designs and promoting their commercialization, stressing that this event not only enriches Mexican culture but also contributes to social justice and historical memory. More than 1,000 artisans will participate in the event, which will be held in Mexico City until November 17th, where they will have exhibitions and sales of textiles, jewelry, footwear, and decorative art products. And also, Argentina's film industry reinvents itself in the face of the lack of government support and launches the General Pico Film Festival 2024. In spite of the economic obstacles, the festival has managed to establish itself as one of the fundamental pillars of culture in the province of La Pampa. This year's festival will include competitive sections of features and short films, both national and regional. The festival will also include exhibitions of Italian and Pampa cinema, as well as workshops, lectures, and debates on different aspects of the audiovisual industry. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.